Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Mompreneurs Making Moves. I'm your host, Amariah. And if you're looking for that strategic right-hand partner who can take you all the way in your business, whether that be operations, calendar, email, all the things that you don't like to do, but you still have to do, and who partners with AI strategically to get you to your goals, then we need to talk because my main business, Infinite Exec, is perfect for you. We've been able to help a lot of companies this past year scale to over 10 million in revenue, and we're ready to take on more clients. So again, if that's you, reach out. We'd be happy to talk and see how we can help and support. But that is not the reason why we're here today. Today, we are here with our amazing guest, Jenny. She helps mom entrepreneurs build sustainable businesses in 20 hours or less using podcasting as their main visibility strategy. And so she teaches moms how to grow without burnout, social media dependency, or big teams. How are you today, Jenny?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm great. I'm excited to be here.
I love the pink, by the way.
Yes.
This brings a certain energy. I love it. And for those of you who also want to connect with Jenny after this episode, her links, like always, will be below the episode. So make sure to reach out and connect, follow. Even if you have a question, just go ahead and let us know because this truly is a community for you. We're here to support moms supporting moms. So, speaking of which, I'm sure some of you are like, okay, how do you build a profitable business without compromising on time where you're trying to be present for your family and trying to just stay sane as a mom? And so let's just dive straight in. You specialize in helping moms build businesses in 20 hours or less. What inspired that model and how did your own journey shape that?
Yeah, I love this question. So I actually started my business before kids, which is kind of rare. I feel like a lot of people start post kids. So I was the opposite. I knew I wanted to have kids someday. So I was on a mission to create a business that allowed me to be able to be more present with my kids before I even had them. Was I set up to be the most successful in that before having kids? No, of course not, because you don't really know till they're here. However, having an established business did make it a little bit easier to start. And, I did have to kind of adjust things once I became a mom. So in 2020, I had my first and I had my second in 2023. So I have two. I have a 6 and a 2.5-year-old. And yeah, once I had my son, I realized some things needed to shift because, I'd been running a business at that point since 2016. It was 2020. So I had a business, it was established, but it wasn't set up to work with kids. So once I had my son, I kind of reinvented everything. I had an agency model at the time, which actually worked pretty well because I was able to hand off work to my team members and all that. And yeah, ever since then, I just have been on a mission to continue streamlining and making it even more, streamlined, especially over the last couple years with AI coming out and being more helpful. I've been really leaning into that the past year and a half as well to make my workflow even more optimized. So yeah, it's been a journey. I will say that, over the past 6 years, just trying to get to the point where I am only working 20 hours a week and, I'm not feeling like, oh, I need to do more. Because that was always a thing with me too. And that's definitely a mindset thing. Like I was definitely getting everything I needed to get done, but I was like, there's more I could probably be doing. So letting go of that was a big, huge thing for me to be able to do because I feel like there's always more to do in business. We're never going to be like, I am completely done. I have absolutely nothing left on my to-do list. So I had to let go of that and be okay with okay, now it's time to log off for the day and be okay with it. So, and I also had to be okay with taking things off my plate that I didn't need to do, whether that was automating it, delegating it to another person, or completely just saying, bye-bye, we don't need you anymore. Because there are a lot of things I was doing pre-kids that I didn't really need to be doing. I just felt like I needed to do. So a lot of those things went completely gone and then a lot became automated and then some were also delegated. So I really had to do a deep dive into my business and see what I actually needed to keep and what I could get rid of. And a lot of it could be gotten rid of, which we don't really think about that until we have less time to work within. So
Yes. Okay, really quick. Talk because I actually have a similar it resonates. Your story resonates with me. I started my virtual assistant agency before I had kids.
mhm.
My business was 3 years old by the time I had
Okay.
my first child last year, and now we're going on 4 years of business, and there is just a huge reinvention, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
once you have a child, and
Yep.
before, I think before I had a kid, I worked like a workhorse, I did
Yep.
a
Same.
ton,
Hmm.
just
You had
constant.
all the time in the world, so you're like, "Why not? Why wouldn't I?" Right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, and
and
I
then when
felt
you
like
don't have that time, you really have to get real with yourself about what you can and can't do.
yes, and I felt like when I was pre-baby, I was almost feeling guilty if I wasn't doing a lot, right?
Yeah.
But now, like, after post-baby, it's like, I'm lucky if I can get in, like, 5 hours of work, deep work in a day,
Yeah. Yeah,
because
yeah, and
just
that's the case for a
the
lot of people. Yeah,
the way
and
that
not only that, it's not even just the children aspect too, it's just like, adding on the household stuff too, which you also had prior to having kids, but it's like you're managing like 3 different things. You're managing a business, you're managing the household, and you're managing child. Whether you have childcare or not, it's still something that's always on your mind? Like, just because my kids are in some form of childcare, I'm not thinking about them or having to coordinate things for them and things like that. So it never leaves your head, even if they're not in your physical, like in your physical area right at the time. So yeah.
for sure. Okay, well, talk to us about the podcasting strategy that you have for gaining
Hmm.
visibility, because that's a very specific angle that we haven't yet
Yes.
talked about on the show with anyone. So I'd love to have you dive into that.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, when you are limited on time, you need to find, like, I mean, we all need some sort of content, right? Like in today's day and age, as business owners, unfortunately, we need some form of content because it's just kind of a non-negotiable at this point. And you can either pick, you don't want it to just be social media because that is like borrowed land, right? Whereas like having something like a podcast, a blog, or a YouTube channel, that is yours. Like you can take it. I mean, obviously YouTube, if YouTube shuts down, like you can take your videos and put them elsewhere. If your podcast host shuts down, you can take it to another podcast host or something. That is all land that you typically own. And, if that one platform shuts down, you can always take it and go somewhere else. Whereas like social media, if your Instagram shuts down tomorrow, you lost all those people. So I always recommend having a platform that you can take people with you. Same with an email list. Like even if your email provider shuts down, you can take that list and export it and take it to another place. So having something that you own and you can take with you elsewhere is really important. And for me, as a mom, I feel like podcasting is one of the most sustainable ones. Like we don't always want to be on video. That's not always feasible because we might have kids in the background and things like that. Or, maybe, if we're on video, we want to have good lighting and we're not trying to record it at 9 p.m. once our kids go to bed. So podcasting, you can kind of like do that no matter what. You don't have to, like, if you don't want to use a video, you don't have to. You can just record your voice. You can be doing it in your pajamas. And if your audience consists of moms, it's really easy for moms to consume. Like they can consume when they're driving, they can consume on a walk. Maybe they're taking their child on a walk and they're in the stroller and they can pop in their earbuds and listen to a podcast. You can't really do that as easily with video and definitely not with a blog because, you're not going to be reading and walking at the same time. I guess you could, but it's not easy. I feel like podcasting is easy on both the host and the consumer. And that's why I love it so much because it is something that can be done in the little cracks of time that you have and have just as big an impact as something like YouTube or blogging or anything like that. So that is the reason why I always recommend podcasting for moms because I feel like it's like the great happy medium tool that you can get all the great results that you're wanting without having to feel like you have to be on camera all the time or you have to always be having the best lighting or any of that. It's just you can pop your microphone on wherever you need to. Maybe you're sitting in bed and you have your microphone in bed with you. You can do that. You don't really most people don't really want to do that with a video setup or something like that. Or blogging. Blogging is easy to do no matter what also, but it's not as easy for your people to consume. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like that it's both easy as for you as the host and people that are consuming it as well to tune
yeah.
into.
And are you saying starting a podcast themselves versus just getting on podcasts for visibility, or
Both, honestly. I mean, I have hosted my own shows since probably I think I started in 2018, my first show, and I've been hosting a show ever since. And I think that's a great way, but also being on other podcasts. I recommend both strategies. I mean, you don't have to have a podcast. Like, I don't think everyone needs a podcast. I'm not going to preach that to everyone. Like, you need a podcast. Like, no, not everyone needs a podcast. But I do think getting on podcasts is a great visibility strategy, especially if you're like, oh, I might want to start a podcast someday. It kind of helps you get your feet wet to see like if that's even a medium that you like. Because if you don't really like being interviewed, you're probably not going to like being a host. So it's a great way to like figure out if you like that strategy at all before like diving in headfirst to hosting your own show. So I think both are really great and I recommend both. But if you have a podcast already or you're planning on starting one, being on other podcasts is one of my favorite ways to grow your own show. Because if you think about it this way, if people are already in the podcasting app and they're listening to you as a guest on someone else's show, it's so easy to just say, hey, go check out my show, blah, 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 blah. And because then you're keeping them in the app versus saying, oh, go follow me on Instagram. Then you're sending them completely elsewhere. And then with our attention spans these days, if you move them elsewhere, they may not even make it there. You know what I mean? Because they're just like, oh, well, you get lost in the sauce because you're just like, yeah, everyone's just so like inundated with all kinds of information. They're just like not really fully paying attention. So it's so much easier to send them to another podcast versus like trying to send them to your website or an Instagram or something else. So it's a really great way to get more people to your show as well. So
No, that does make sense. That absolutely makes sense. And what would you say are the two biggest myths that moms need to unlearn about growing a business?
okay. I would say number one would be just stop focusing on what other people are doing. I think that's something we do. We're always looking at, well, this person's doing this strategy and this person's doing that strategy, but no one else has your exact scenario. Like no one, like, sure, they might have like a similar kids and similar in age to you. They might be a similar year in business to you. You might have some similarities, but no one has your exact situation. So I highly encourage people to just like put your blinders on and not try to follow someone else's strategy to a T, because chances are it's not going to work for you because you don't have the exact same, anything that they have. Maybe your kids are the same age and that's like where the similarities stop. So I highly encourage people to like put their blinders on and not, look at what everyone else is doing. Sure, it's like good to take inspiration, but we don't want to like fully try to replicate what someone else is doing because it's not going to be the best fit for us. We need to like really take a look about ourselves, our business model, and see what is going to work best for us and not try to do what everyone else is doing. Because also that makes you more unique too if you're kind of forging your own path versus just kind of like copying what everyone else is doing, because then it's easier to stand out because you're not doing what 17 other people are doing. And the second thing is, I think people just need to just give themselves more grace. I feel like, especially as moms, we tend to be super hard on ourselves. And I feel like in my journey of being a business owner and mom now, I've noticed that too, that I'm like even more hard on myself. Like if something in parenting is hard, then I'm harder on myself in business. And if something in business is hard, then I'm harder on myself in parenting. And then I feel like I'm like, oh, I'm just not doing anything right in any area. Or like if the business has a hard day and the parenting day is hard, it's like, oh, I'm just going to burn everything to the ground because it's just hard. And I feel like, we need to stop putting our self-worth into how much we're making in our business, because I feel like you're going to have ups and downs. Like not every year is going to be a super crazy profitable year. You're not going to like 10 times your revenue every year after year. Like that's just not realistic. And we see all these stories of people saying, oh, I went from 0 to $1 million in 1 year or something like that. And that's just not realistic for most people. So I feel like, just giving yourself more grace in all areas of life and, just riding your own path and going about your own journey and not trying to like find all these shortcuts to, make things happen that aren't necessarily like feasible. Like not everyone is going to have like this insane story where they go from 0 to multiple millions in 2 years or something like that. And I feel like that's what we see. So we think it's like, oh, that's easy. That's, so-and-so did it and this other person did it and that other person did it. So I can do it too. And I think maybe just stop glamorizing that, because it's not realistic for most people. And that's okay. I mean, I didn't start my business to become a multiple millionaire. I started my business because I wanted more time with my kids. So just being able to like put those two things aside and stop really comparing ourselves to people online I think that's a big thing that a lot of moms like experience, especially if you have a business. Like I know it happens personally too. Like you see moms like, oh, her kids are doing this and her kids are more advanced than that and our kids are the same age. Like, why is this happening? But it's kind of double when you have a business and you're a mom, because you're seeing it from both ends. It's not just like, oh, they're killing it in parenting. You see someone killing it in parenting and business and you're like, why can't I do that kind of thing? So I feel like we just need to be nicer to ourselves and stop comparing ourselves to others, because it's not going to get us anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so funny because we hear it all the time, like comparison is the thief of joy and blah, blah,
hmm
blah. But then it's like the constant thing that we do because of just the culture we're in, half of it.
Yeah, yeah, and like, like I mean, even just thinking back to our parents weren't like sitting there like saying, "Oh, I made $1 million last week" or whatever, you know what I mean? But like in the online business space, that's so normalized. Like, and none of my friends in like the regular corporate world, they don't boast about their salary 24/7 because they don't need to. But in the online space, that's normalized,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like, there's nothing wrong with sharing your clients' wins and stuff, but a lot of people lead with like, oh, I made this much money. I made that much money. They're not talking about how much they helped their clients achieve. Like I know in your intro, you said we helped our clients do this, right? It wasn't like I made $10 million or something like that. And I feel like that's like a more measurable result than what you made. Like, cool, you can make money, but if you're not helping your clients, then that's a different story. But I just think, yeah, we're seeing all these numbers, like these huge numbers, and then we're normalizing them. And that's not normal for the average person.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And that's such a good reminder. I love that. Okay. So for a mom starting from scratch, what are the first three steps to getting her first paying client without spending hours online?
Yeah, I love that. And I think okay, first three steps. So I would say step number one, you need to figure out like who your audience is. So who are you serving? And I think a lot of the time people try to go way too broad because they think like, oh, if I'm like more niche, no one's going to
Yeah.
find me.
Yeah.
But I think that's a big mistake. And that's something I actually did for the longest time. I was like very broad. I was like, I'm serving all female entrepreneurs. And over the past 2 years, I've niched down to helping moms. Doesn't mean like people who are not moms can't work with me, but it's easier to talk to that smaller group of people than say, oh, I'm serving all female entrepreneurs. So I think, figuring out your niche, figuring out that is really helpful because then it helps in all areas of your offers, your messaging, every single thing. So that's the first step. And then I would say your second step is like to find your visibility channel, whatever channel that you want that to be. So I always say it should be a long form content, like not have it just be Instagram, because I feel like that's just not sustainable, especially with the algorithms and all that stuff. So find one like visibility channel. I would say should either be a podcast, a blog, or a YouTube channel. Those are all long form, and then you can syndicate them to social media channels. But I always say start with a long form channel. That would be my second step. And once you have your niche and stuff, it's easier to share that content because you know who you're talking to. It's not just like I'm talking to every single person out there. You have your little niche, and then you can talk to those people on, your platform of choice. And then the third thing I would say is really just, whatever channel you choose, make sure that you're connecting it to your offers. So many people have a podcast that is like great and it's fun and they have guests and they have solo episodes, but they never really talk about what they offer in their business. Or if they do, it's not connected. They're like, my podcast is about XYZ, but then what I'm talking about in my business is completely disconnected. So I think the third step is really just connecting whatever channel you choose, whether it's podcast, YouTube, or blog, and making sure you're sharing about your offers because people don't really know. Like and then most people aren't going to take the time and go dig for, like they might really love you and they might love your episodes or they might love your YouTube channel, but they're not really going to go like too much deeper and dig. And like most people are not going to do that. They just don't have the time
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah.
So you need to be really clear with them. Tell them what you offer. And it has to make sense with whatever your content is about. Otherwise, it's just a weird disconnect. And they're going to be like, okay, cool. She has this business, but it has nothing to do with this podcast or this YouTube channel or this blog. So, like, why would I do that? So, give them that clear next step because most people are not doing that. And then they're wondering why, like, they're not getting any leads or clients from their long form content channel. So,
Yes. Yeah. That makes complete sense. Tell us one way that you have been able to, I wouldn't say master, but if you will, for lack of a better word, master when the day's done, you are offline, you are done. Like you are with
yeah.
your family. And then when it's time to work, you're at work.
Yeah,
How,
this is something that's definitely been a hard thing for me, and like some days I'm obviously better than others because some days you're taking work home with you. It's not. Yeah, it happens. No one's perfect, so it just happens. But for me, like I always during the school year, especially, I have a hard stop at 3 because my son gets off of I have to be in the car line at 3:30. So at 3, I'm like hard stopping. Like I might respond to an email or something, but I'm getting off my computer. I'm wrapping the day up. The summer's a little more flexible because he's in summer camp and that ends a little bit later than the typical school year. But yeah, during the school year, I have a hard stop at 3, and then 3:30, I'm in the car line for pickup after work because I don't want to be late to the car line because then you get at the end and that's not it's not a fun experience. So really having those boundaries around like my hard stop times, and then sometimes in the car line I'll answer some emails and stuff, but like I never leave anything like super pressing for that time because I don't always want to be on my phone. Sometimes I want to read on my Kindle when I'm in the car line. Sometimes I want to be doing other things that aren't related to work, but I really try my hardest. Like, I mean, sometimes I actually choose to work at night because I want to. So it's just like, but I tell myself, like, I'm not doing client work. I'm only going to do stuff within my own business that is related to me and nothing related to my clients or anything like that. So I give myself the freedom to work if I want to, but I restrict myself from doing anything for clients because I say that for the daytime hours. And because otherwise you just get so wrapped up in your client stuff that you never do anything for yourself or you never take any time for yourself. And I think that's important too, because we need to decompress and step away from work. We can't be at our computer for 12 hours a day. Like that's just not sustainable for a long period of time. Sure, there might be seasons where you need to be like that, but as like a whole, you should not be at your computer for unlimited hours a day because you're not serving yourself, you're not serving your kids, and you're not serving your clients when you're like that because your cup is likely very empty. So
Yeah.
and I think like, some people that are moms have different schedules too. Like I know a couple moms that I've worked with in the past, like they kind of worked a little bit sporadically during the week and then sometimes at night, but then like they would work a full Saturday or something. And because that's the time that they got and their husband, was home and helping with the kids and stuff. And that works too. I mean, if that's what works for you, there's no reason to not do it that way. But you just got to find out what works for you because yeah. I mean, for me, I'm on Saturdays, I'm taking like the weekend, I'm taking off. I might do a little bit of my own work on the weekend if I choose to, but for the most part, I completely unplug on the weekends. But that may not be a reality. It really just depends on what season of life you're in. Some seasons are busier than others. Some seasons you're having to work on the weekends and at nights because, you don't have this childcare situation completely locked down or you have limited childcare or something. It really just depends on the season that you're in. Like for me, I have a child that's in elementary school, so I have those hours.
Mm.
Whereas some people might have their kids home all day and they just can work in nap time hours or
Yeah.
whatever. It just really depends on what season you're in. But for me, since I do have my son in elementary and my daughter, she's 2.5 and she's in daycare preschool or she's gonna be in preschool next year. So yeah, it just depends on your working hours. Everyone's schedule is gonna be different. Everyone's 20-hour work week is going to be different. I mean, even though I do have childcare, I only work 20 hours a week because I have other things going on, like
Yeah.
maintaining the house and, taking care of myself and appointments and different things like that. So yes, I do have childcare, but I still don't, I'm not trying to work 40 hours a week. There's no need for it really. I've realized that because half the stuff I was doing just was things that I didn't need to be doing. So
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, thank you for sharing with us about how you can work within 20 hours a week and niching down and other specific topics that I think are really helpful for moms, especially giving ourselves grace and not comparing as much and truly deciding what it is that we want our lives to look like so that we can aspire and reverse engineer that to make it a reality.
yes.
And I think too, it's just worth mentioning that we don't start off immediately where we want to end up, right?
No.
It's a progress. It's a
Yeah. I
growth.
mean, I have a 6-year-old and I still feel like I'm tweaking my schedule every so often because, he just started elementary last year. So I had like my first year of like kind of a different schedule. And yeah, every year is just going to be different. Your kids might be like in a competitive sports league or something. And then you have a million practices and games that you're going to. So every season is going to be different. You just have to adjust and tweak and figure out what works for you in whatever season that you're in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really helpful. That is very helpful. And again, for those of you who want to connect with Jenny, her links will be below and reach out if you can't find her or don't know how else you can reach her and I'll connect you. But we really appreciate you being here and just sharing with us more about how you were able to unlock that. And also any of your services, I imagine would be on your website, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. And thank you, listeners, for just taking a few minutes out of your day to spend with us. And remember that goodness, my brain just went.
You're good. It happens.
Okay. Keep making moves, keep showing up. Every move you make matters. And just take one day at a time and remember to take care of yourselves too. And we will see you next time on our next episode of Mompreneurs Making Moves. And thank you again, Jenny.
Thank you.